Okay. Last meeting, we had discussed the application of derivative for maxima and minima. This time, we will be discussing the application of derivative for time rates. Okay, so time rates is also called the rate of change with respect to time. Okay, so we have here the basic procedure in finding the time rates. Okay, so first is to draw the figure if necessary. This is to understand and to visualize the given conditions in the problem. Okay, so after drawing the figure or illustrating the figure, you have to make an equation based on the given condition in the problem. So first is you have to find the given information and list down the given variables, then required variables, then relate these given variables with each other. Okay, so after making the equation based on the condition, you have now to differentiate with respect to time. So differentiate now the equation derived in step 2 with respect to time. Okay, so after differentiating with respect to time, you have now to substitute the condition and solve what is required in the problem. Okay, so to understand further time rates, let's have an example here. Okay, so we have here an example. So a ladder 20 feet long leans against a vertical wall. So if we have a vertical wall here, meron daw tayong ladder. We have a ladder here that leans on the vertical wall. Okay, it's our ladder. Okay, so if the top slides down at a rate of 2 feet per second, so yung top ng ladder, nag-slide daw siya with this rate, 2 feet per second. Okay, so nag-slide daw siya. Okay, so we have to determine how fast the lower end, so i-determine natin itong lower end, how fast this is moving when it is 15 feet from the wall. So ito yung required natin. Okay, so yung ladder natin is 20 feet. Okay, so let's denote our variable here. So say the height of this, say this is y, and this is x. Okay. So that is our figure. So for the second, we have now to determine the given variables and the required variables. Okay. So for this problem, dy, okay, so we have here y. Okay, so the rate dy with respect to time is given, which is equal to 2 feet per second. And since this is decreasing, let's denote that as negative 2 feet per second. Decreasing siya. Pagka increasing, positive. Okay, pagka decreasing, negative. So we will be putting a negative sign here. Okay, so dy with respect to dt. Okay, and for our x, hindi natin alam ito, kaya dx with respect to t is our unknown. This will be our required. Okay, so we have to determine how fast the lower end is moving when it is 16 feet from the wall. So we have to determine dx with respect to time when our x is 16 feet. Okay, so yan yung mga required natin. Okay, so to create an equation, let's take a look at our illustration. Okay, so anong relationship ang ma-formulate natin dito? Okay, so this is a right triangle. So pwede nating gamitin yung Pythagorean theorem natin, which is, Pythagorean theorem is x squared plus y squared, that is equal to the hypotenuse na 20 squared. Okay? So ito yung makikreate nating equation given the conditions in our problem. Okay? So ito yung i-differentiate natin. Okay? So kunin natin yung derivative with respect to time. Okay? So if we're going to get the derivative of this, okay? So using the chain rule, makukuha natin yung derivative niyan, di ba? So 2x dx with respect to time. Okay? Plus 2y dy with respect to time. Okay? Derivative of a constant is equal to 0. Okay? Simplifying now our equation. So our equation now is 2x dx over dt. Ito yung hinahanap natin. That is equal to negative 2y dy with respect to t. Okay? So, ang required natin is the dx dt. So, ito yung hahanapin natin. So, we need to find the value of y since our dy dt is given. Okay? X now is given. When x is equal to 16, kukunin natin yung dx with respect to dt. Okay? So, pagka dinivide nyo yan, cancel natin yung 2. Matitira na ngayon, dx dt is equal now to negative y over x dy dt. Okay? So, meron na tayong value for dy dt. That is negative 2 feet per second. Okay? So, we are going to get dx dt when x is equal to 16. Kaya meron din tayong value ng x. Ang hahanapin natin ngayon is the value of y. So, how can we find the value of y? Okay, so using the Pythagorean theorem, that is y squared equal to 20 squared minus x squared. Okay, when x now is equal to 16. Okay, so y now is the square root of 20 squared is 400 minus 16 squared. Okay, so we can get now the value of y that is equal to 12 feet. Okay, so we have now the value of y. So substituting here in our equation here, our dx over dt now is equal to negative 12. X now is 16. dy dt is negative 2 feet per second. So this is in feet, this is in feet, magka-cancel yung unit. Kaya ang matitirang unit natin is feet per second. Okay? So 24 divided by 16, that is dx dt now is equal to negative multiplied by a negative, that is positive. So 24 divided by 16, that is equal to 1.5. Okay, ang unit natin is feet per second. So this will be our answer for our problem number 1. So how fast the lower end is moving, that is 1.5 feet per second. Okay, so that is for problem number 1. Okay, so let's proceed to our next problem. So a light is placed on the ground 30 feet from a building. Okay, a man is 6 feet tall walks from the light towards the building at a rate of 5 feet per second. We have to find the rate at which the length of his shadow on the wall is changing when he is 15 feet from the building. Okay, so we have a light here. So let's say, naglagay tayo ng lamp, placed on the ground 30 feet from the building. If this is our building, okay, so our lamp is placed 30 feet. Okay, so from the building. So we have a man 6 feet tall walk from the light towards the building. So meron tayong, so he is 6 feet. Okay, 6 feet tall towards the building at a rate. Okay, so meron siyang rate na 5 feet per second. Okay, so we have to find the rate at which the length of his shadow. So pagka naglagay kayo ng light dyan, meron tayong shadow, magre-reflect yung shadow ng ating man doon sa building. Okay, so find the rate at which the length of the shadow of the wall is changing. So if we have here y, we have to find dy with respect to time. Okay, so the change in the shadow, when he is 15 feet from the building. Okay, so from this figure, we can create now our conditions. Okay, so we have here y. Paano tayo makaka-create? So for example, let's say this is our x, the distance of a man from the lamp. Okay, so if this is pole, this is 30 feet, ang matitira dito is 30 minus x. Okay, so we can create now our equation. Okay, so how can we create our equation? If we are going to look at our figure, makaka-create tayo using the similar triangle. We can have this one triangle and we have this as another triangle. Okay, so we can create an equation using the similar triangles. Okay, so we have x is to 6. So ito yung x natin is to 6 kasi with this x, 6 feet. Okay, so x is to 6. And then we have here, if this is the full horizontal length natin, ang y natin is this y. So this is equal to 30 y. Okay, so similar triangle. So we can now have our equation as xy is equal to 6 times 30, that is 180. Okay, so we can now have this as our equation. Okay, so ang hinahanap natin is dy with respect to time. Okay, so this is our required. Okay, so we can now differentiate this equation. Okay, so product rule. Okay, so we have, pagka dinifferentiate nyo yan, x dy dt plus y dx dt, that is equal to 0. Okay, so dy dt dx dt. Okay, so dx dt is given, that is, sabi sa problem, that is 5 feet per second. Yung light towards the building is at a rate of 5 feet per second. Okay, so we have now dx dt. Okay, we don't have the y, so we have to find the value of y. Okay, x, meron tayong x. We can find our x. Sabi niya, when he is 15 feet from the building, if he is 15 feet from the building, okay, alam natin na yung buong length nito is 30. So we can now find our x, which is pagka 15 siya from the building, 30 yung lahat ng length ng building hanggang dun sa lamp, pwede natin kunin yung x that is 15 feet. That is 30 minus 15. So we have our x. dy dt is our required. Okay, so how do we find the value of y? Okay, so we can find the value of y when he is when x is 15 feet. Okay, so when he is 15 feet from the building, makukuha natin yung value ng x na 15 din. Okay, kasi that is 30 minus 15. So our x is 15. When x is equal to 15, yung y natin ngayon is equal to, okay, y is equal to 180. Equation natin dito. Okay, 180 over 15. So 180 over 15, our y now is equal to 12 feet. Okay? Yan na yung magiging y natin. Okay, so substituting now our values here, equation, we have our x, 15. Okay, so 15 dy dt, that is our required, plus our y, 12 feet. Dx dt is equal to 5 feet per second. So we have 5 feet per second. That is equal to 0. Okay, so calculating now, our dy dt is equal to negative 12 over 15 multiplied by 5 feet per second. So this is in feet, this is in feet, magka-cancel yun. Kaya ang matitirang unit natin is feet per second. So calculating now our dy dt using your calculator, we have 12 times 5, that is 60, divide by 15, makakakuha tayo ng negative 4 feet per second. Okay, so this negative sign indicates that our y is decreasing. Okay, so our y is decreasing. So this negative sign indicate that our y is decreasing. So habang papalapit ng papalapit yung tao doon sa building, lumiliit yung length ng shadow dito sa building. Kaya nagdi-decrease. Okay? So this will be now our final answer. dy dt is equal to negative 4 feet per second. Okay? So that is for our sample problem number 2. Okay? So let's have another example. So problem number 3. Okay, so for our problem number 3, water is flowing into a conical cistern. Okay, so cone. Conical, so in cone shape yung cistern natin at a rate of 8 cubic meter per minute. Okay, so if the height of the inverted cone, so inverted. So ang cone natin, ganito yung cone, di ba? Ganyan. Okay. So inverted cone. So let's draw our inverted cone. Okay. Okay, so that is our inverted cone. So if the height of our inverted cone, yung height daw natin is 12 meter. Okay, so 12 meter. So let's say this is our h. Okay, 12 meter. And the radius of the cone circular opening. So if this is our opening, ang radius daw natin here is equal to 6 meter. Okay, so how fast is the water level rising when the water is 4 meter deep? So if we have here a water, how fast daw yung water is rising? If we have a rate of water which is 8 cubic meter per minute. Okay? So meron tayong water which is flowing into the cistern na 8 cubic meter per minute yung rate. Okay, so meron tayong water. So how fast daw this water is rising? Okay, so how fast is this water rising? Okay, so let's denote this. So meron na tayong H na 12. So we can have here okay, so ito yung i-denote natin na H, variable na H. So how fast daw is this water level rising? Okay, if we have this condition given in the problem. Okay, so for the problem, we have here a given rate. Okay, so rate Q, the flow rate is equal to 8 cubic meter per minute. Okay, flow rate is equal to that. This flow rate is actually the derivative of the volume of this cone with respect to time. Yung flow rate natin, that is the volume with respect to time. Okay, the change of the volume of the cone with respect to time. That is 8 cubic meter per minute. Okay? So this is one given. Okay? So meron tayong given. Okay? So we have 12 meter. Meron din tayong radius na 6 meter. And we have to find this. Ano yung rate nito? That is dH over dt. So itong rate ng level ng water. Okay? So how can we create our condition based on the given variables in our problem? Okay, so we have a given of rate in terms of volume. Okay, so let's get the volume of the cone. Okay, so the volume of the cone is actually 1/3 multiplied by the area of the base. Okay, area of the base. So the area of this base here, that is in circular. So that is the area of the base multiplied by the height, h. Okay, so volume now is equal to 1/3 the area of the base. Okay, so the area of the circle given radius. So the area of the circle is pi radius squared. Okay, multiplied by the height. Okay, so we have here two variables. So dapat isang variable lang ito. We have radius and we have height. So we have to find the radius in terms of height para maging isang variable lang siya. So paano natin kunin yung radius in terms of height? Okay, so we're going to look at our illustration. Okay, so the radius, okay, so the radius is 6. Pagka ang radius niya is 6, ang height natin is 12. Okay? So radius height is equal to 12. Okay? So if we're going to find the radius here, okay? Radius dito, that is in terms of h. So radius is in terms of h. So pagka ang radius nito, anong height dito sa cone? Okay, so that is equal to radius is to height. Okay, so we can now say that radius is equal to, that is 6/12, that is 1/2, so h/2. We can equate now our radius in terms of height, that is h/2. Okay, so substitute natin ito dito. So volume now is equal to 1/3 pi. Okay, so our radius is h/2 squared multiplied by height. Okay, so our volume now, we have now the equation of volume in terms of height, that is 1/3 multiplied by 1/2 squared is 1/4. So 1/3 multiplied by 1/4, that is Okay, so ilagay muna natin. That is pi. Okay, so h squared multiplied by 2 times 2, that is 4. Multiplied by h. Okay, so our volume now is equal to 1/3 multiplied by 1/4, that is over 12, 1/12. Okay, so we have 1/12 pi h squared multiplied by h, that is h cubed. So this will be now the equation of the cone in terms of height. The volume of the cone in terms of height. Okay, we can now differentiate our equation. Okay? So kukunin natin ito, yung height with respect to time. Okay? So i-differentiate natin ito with respect to time. Okay? So we have now this equation, di-differentiate natin ito. Okay? So dv with respect to time, okay, is equal now to, differentiate natin ito, pi over 12, that is the numerical coefficient. Okay? So pagka di-differentiate mo yan, 3h squared. Diba? 3 minus 2, that is 3h squared. Okay? That is dh with respect to the t. Okay? With respect to time. So ito yung required natin. Okay? This is our required. dv with respect to time is given, which is actually 8 cubic meter per minute. So we have here 8 meter cube per minute. Okay, so that is equal now to, we have here pi over 2, 3 over 12, that is 1 over 4. So this is equal to pi h squared over 4 dh over dt. Okay, so we can solve for the value of dh dt. Okay, ano yung h natin? Okay, so we have here a given, para ma-solve na yung dh over dt, kailangan muna natin yung value ng h. So ano yung value ng h natin? If we're going to look at our problem, how fast is the water level rising when the water is 4 meter deep? So ang h natin dito is 4 meter. Okay, so we have here dh now over dt is equal to 4 multiplied by 8, that is cross multiply. That is, ilan ito? 4 multiplied by 8, that is 32. Okay, so 32 over pi h squared. Okay, so substituting now the h when h is equal to 4. So 32 pi 4 squared. Okay, so makukuha na natin yung rate ng water, which is 32 over pi, 32 divided by pi multiplied by 4 squared, that is 0.6366 meter per minute. So this will be the rate of the water rising. Okay, so ito na yung rate or the water level rising when the water is 4 meter deep. So our answer now here is 0.6066 meter per minute. Okay?